If you're ready to step into greater potential in your life, this conversation is for you. My name is Ed Marquis. I'm an energy worker, a quantum healer, and a mentor. And this is a space for real stories of transformation. I created this interview series because every person that has moved through my Heaven on Earth mentorship has their own journey, their own breaking points, awakenings, and becoming. This is a 6-month container, and when someone is held with that level of time, support, and energetic care, the shifts that happen are deeply layered, unique, and honestly impossible to capture in a single testimonial. So rather than telling you about the work myself, I wanted you to hear it directly from those who have lived it. These are raw, honest conversations about the before, the during, and the transformation that happens when someone decides that they're ready to step into alignment, peace, and sovereignty. As you listen, I invite you to pay attention to anything that resonates. If anything awakens within you, trust that. Nothing is coincidence, right? Nothing is random. It's an invitation. So with that, this is Heaven on Earth, lived, embodied, and shared. I hope you enjoy. Hi!
Hey.
So we're just, let's let this be just conversational, and let's dive right in. The thing I'm more interested in people hearing is your journey of transformation. So being able to touch a little bit on like where you were before joining this container, maybe little bits about your experience during and after. But first, I want to ask, what drew you to Heaven on Earth? Like, what about it was like, this might be for me, or this is for me, or, whatever that inkling or that curiosity was?
Yeah, there was a couple of things that stood out that like impacted me. First of all, you and your energy when we met last year at the retreat, like just the amount of grace and patience that you have, and that's something that I particularly like think is really important to my healing process. Like I'm not very graceful with myself. I'm not very patient. So those two things when I first met you, I didn't realize at that moment, but now fast forward to here, I'm like, that's so imperative to me embodying like my overall, just evolution.
Yeah.
But I feel like the more that I work on myself, and I feel it applies mostly to the collective when we want to heal and when we're actively and intentionally making decisions to what we can do to better ourselves, we draw things into us. And Heaven on Earth was one of those things where I connected with you at the time of the program, and I was looking for mentorship, and you had proposed it to me. And I'll be honest, I was resistant. But because I was aware of where I was and wasn't exactly sure of what I needed, but I was searching, I knew that I was sitting in resistance. So the more I felt that, the more it would compel me, my spirit would compel me to lean into those things that I'm resisting. So it wasn't like I didn't want to do it. It was just, I have to put the work in. It was like the work that I wasn't doing. So initially, short story, initially when we spoke, I called you for mentorship. And I wanted one-on-ones and, special treatment and, coddle me and all that. And like, not exactly what I was looking for, but, now that I look back at it, like that's, you know what I mean? I didn't want more because I was afraid to come out of my shell. So, and what you were offering at the time, you're like, yeah, I can give you mentorship. It's a group program, and we're doing certain things that, those of you who join the program will see that are going to take active, intention each week, each moment, each second. And I'm like, whoa, this is a lot. I just wanted somebody to talk to. So, but I thought about it. And at the time, there was like so much going on with me, and it really clicked. And then the more I thought about like, oh, well, why am I resisting this? The more understanding I was having that, like, my healing lies in the resistance that I'm feeling. So whatever I don't feel like doing, I should be doing right now. And then, like, back to what I was saying about like you attracting things to you when you do start doing things with intention, when you start healing, and no matter where you are in your healing process, when you want it, like it will come to you in certain forms. It's not always the form that you expect, but when you are asking for it and actively seeking it, it will come to you. So the dots just really connected in
Yeah.
that manner for me.
Yeah. Thank you. You said a lot there that I'm like, I like have a few questions for you. One, and I'm like trying to figure out where I want to start. But I want to ask you, you said like you had a lot of resistance and because you thought you needed it to be a certain way, right? Or and then it turned out to be something different. You're like, I don't know, but it wasn't from a lack of desire to heal. It was just like, but I thought I needed it's more of like a logical, like I want it my way. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe like unaware of like, I often talk about how like, how do you know what to ask for when you don't even know what's fully out there to receive, right? Like
Mm.
sometimes like someone looking outside in can see what you need, but like you're the one with the blind spot in the moment. So you don't know how to ask for that. Like you might say, makes me think of when I go get a massage and I'm like, oh, it's my lower back. And they're like, no, it's actually your toe. And I'm like, how? They're like, it's your toe because it's this and that's connected to that. And then that gives you the lower back pain. So it's like you don't know until you go through a process and realize, oh, those were the actual missing pieces. But yeah, what changed for you? Like when did you start like when were you able to move past the resistance or like what happened that allowed you to just be like, you know what, let me just trust this? Was it something that I said, something that you felt, or was it when you were already in the program? Like what happened?
It was all of that. I think for me, yeah, it was all of that. For me, I think the thing most that changed for me with like leaning into resistance or is like realizing what surrender was for me. And it continuously happens, but in this specific question, it was asking for help. I had just such a big problem of asking for help. So then what happens is I then go and like ask for help, out of desperation or because I don't, like that's last resort, instead of making it like the first thing and avoiding all those steps. It's always the last resort for me. And then I go to the help and then I don't want to hear what the help tells me. So I realized I was in that loop. And because you're so graceful and you're so patient, I feel like divinely, I just was able to see that in myself, And I was already like noticing that about me. Like, okay, I'm in a loop, but I don't know where I can jump out of this. But I truly feel like God and spirit places people in your lives for a reason, even if it's just so subtly. Because we didn't have a lot of dialogue. Like I didn't speak much at the retreat or bond with many people when I first met you. But then, somehow after, I felt very comfortable talking to you. So it was just your energy and your spirit, So I really like assessed that. Like, okay, I feel comfortable with someone, like there's a reason for this, So there was something beautiful and magnetic about your personality that I very much admire and inspires me. And I'm like, okay, well, if she's running this ship, then she can teach me those things, So and again, that wasn't something that I realized, like even talking to you, it's just really following, like learning to slow down, and just talking to you in moments, and people in general, you start to realize when you open up a little bit, even just a little bit, because I still feel like I have a ways to go, but that's okay. But even just a little bit goes such a long way. You start to realize like, people are like people are so medicinal, even if they're not good for you. So it was a really cathartic moment for me every time we connected. So I think that was God saying, like, hello, you have this in your life, and you just have to embrace it, even if you're resistant about it. So there was a awareness that I was having at the time because I was moving, I was overcoming some tribulations from my past that were like actively happening in those moments. So I'm like, okay, I need to hold on to this momentum, So I was very vigilant about who is around me, why they're around me, and how I can help them or they can help me, And you were one of those people who were like there for me, by divine. Really, I just feel like it was, it was literally divine timing. Like you had reached out to me and was like, "Oh, I'm offering, an open meditation, like no cost." And like I saw that you posted it and I was like, no, I can't do it because like I don't want to do anything for free because like I felt guilty, even though like you're saying I'm offering this. But that's where I was at the time, so afraid to take help. And magically, you knew that and you reached out to me. You're like, hey, are you going to do this meditation? And I was like, oh my gosh, it's like she read my mind. Like I wanted to do it, and this was pre heaven on earth. But it was literally like, sometimes God like speaks to you through people. And that's how I felt.
Wow, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and since we're already on the topic and like lightly touching on, where you were at the start of the container, like looking for help and realizing that, okay, maybe this is it. Do you mind sharing? Like, I would love people to understand your before, And I know you said, oh, you still have some ways to go, but ultimately there was a lot of transformation that still happened. We are human and there's always layers and there's always lessons. Yeah, if you can give us a little like sneak peek into what was life for you, like what were you feeling? What were your main challenges? Like, was there anything keeping you up late at night? What were these things that you were struggling with that you felt that you needed support with?
Yeah, okay, so like I could be personal, right? Personally, I feel like I was just coming out of a very dark night of the soul. I mean, I don't know like mean to be like, but a lot had happened. I had just conquered sobriety a year before. So I quit drinking. There was other things that were like problems with me as well that I was struggling with overall from life and addiction and stuff. So I had a year of that. And I had also lost my mother prior, very recent to when we started. And I just came out of a shelter with my children. So there was just so much that happened at once. And when you talk about depression, and I mean this in the most positive way because I needed to go through that to even get to speak to you, And now I have such an appreciation and a gratitude for that whole struggle. But it was just so much at once. And then, I was on the verge of turning the tables when I had met you because it had been like a year of all of that. Boom, boom, boom. So I had like a good little year, but a year is really nothing. Like when you're going through like trauma and stuff, that's happening for a lifetime because even with just that portion, let's because the loops were happening, so but you think and you feel like, oh, I got this and I'm good now. And then a year is when the healing really started, when it started to hit me like, oh, I'm still like all of the same things that when this stuff was happening, it's just like I'm a little bit stronger now. So, okay, how can I gain my strength more? So, and my patience and my resilience. And you start to realize, the things that are keeping me in the loop, the things that I'm not doing, and pretty much to I'm sorry, I forgot the basis of the question, but what I want to say is all those things led up to meeting you and put me in a place where I needed to make a decision. Like I could stop doing those things and maybe I'm not depressed anymore and kind of like just go through life and be comfortable. Or I can really start facing myself, and seeing like why I even brought these behaviors and things that got me to this point in my life. So, and part of it was my children too, because I have two small kids, 5 and 7. I love them so much. And, when I look at them, I see me, and I just don't want them to feel what I felt. So that was really impactful too in me making the decision for heaven on earth.
Yeah, that's a big one. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not a parent, so I can't speak to it, but I understand the desire to want to be better for your future generations, and even for myself, like I will not have grandchildren, but there are people in the world who I will impact, and I can only do that by working on myself and like breaking those patterns and cycles and developing better habits and new skills, right? So one, I just want to commend you for that and for having made that decision because I, you know, being unstable, right? Like you said, coming out of shelter, coming out of addiction, like moving through grief, that's a lot. That's a lot. Even just one of those things is a lot for anybody. So thank you for the work that you have done. And thank you for sharing that. And you mentioned too how, you can see how, yes, those things happened. And I love that you didn't put yourself in like a victim space of like, these things happened to me. There was a level of like, accountability if there are things about my patterning and my behavior that may have led me to have these experiences. And I know that's hard for some people to take, right? But for you to say I needed to face these things, I think that's the biggest thing in somebody's journey is like having the accountability and then deciding to look at them like straight in the face and say, okay, like how do we heal this? How do we not do this anymore? What's at the root of this? And that's a lot of the work that we do. So I want to segue into just like maybe when did you start feeling any sort of like shifts in your life? Like, was there any particular moment, session, or time within the container that you were like, wow, this is working? And like, what was that?
Yeah. I mean, now that I look back, like as soon as I started like working with you, like even just speaking to you, like things were coming together. I just was also still in like a state of like fight or flight, where like you can't like things start to come together and you can't really appreciate it because you're like waiting for something to go wrong, but I had moved and then I had to move at the time. So that's the exact time that I started speaking with you. And like you were just so calming to my nervous system every time we spoke, every time we worked, even outside of the container, worked together, that I was able to like prepare myself for what I was about to endure because it was a lot. Because I still had an apartment in Queens. Then I had to move to Jersey. I couldn't find a place because I wanted to move out here and branch out here with the kids, but I couldn't find a place. But I was so in such a space where I just like I knew I was growing rapidly. So like if I sat in one spot, I was going to stay in the loop. So I was like, I have to be active now. And you gave me a sense of safety, that I found in myself, but you helped me to tap into that every time we worked together, every time I just heard your voice, because, I could like slow down and then I could okay, like retune myself, and I started to become aware of that, like who I'm around and the people I'm being influenced by, the people that I'm getting inspired by affect me so much. So I have to make decisions. I have to pay attention to my nervous system. I have to pay attention to my awareness, to my focus when I'm talking to people who I'm working with. Is it helping me? Is it distracting me? And a lot of things I was working through at the time. I was getting to a better flow state for myself that, it was in such an intense moment where I'm healing, but also I have all these like real life things going on as well that I'm physically working through. So just to have moments of ease when I'm feeling supported, and to have, even if it was just for a couple of hours after we got off the phone, I could think and I could say like, okay, let me get this work done. Let me look at these apartments. Let me get out here and talk to these people. Let me network a little bit, and use that as momentum. And the more I did that with you and with other people around me, I could also learn to fuel myself. But I feel like the real shift happened in heaven on earth. I would say the first like month or two was a little tough for me, but I kept feeling those things, those feelings of goodness, intuitively I know this is good for me, and I knew that resistance was coming from somewhere that had created personal, it was personal, you know what I mean? So I was like, this is how I'm going to break through this. So once I locked in and I was like, okay, all right, I'm doing this, and a lot of it was the things that was going on. I was transitioning. So I was moving at the time and I wasn't stable. So it was hard to like buckle in and focus, but it taught me a lot about my strength and like how to ground, really ground, because if I needed for me to learn to ground through an earthquake. Some people don't need that. Some people might need just subtle determination and practice every day. Not Kate. She needs the windows to be falling down, and what are you going to do? Because that was my state that I was used to dealing with. So in order for me to get out of that state, I needed to be in that state and get out of that state. So once I locked in, I would say like the second month, probably, I was like, all right, this is good. Like there was just like so much ease, so much understanding, and the level that you work on too, where it's not like, I feel like somehow you figured out how to contain a group, but yet individually customize everyone's needs, right? Like, because I wasn't ready to like practice every day and like, embody my spiritual hygiene. I wasn't, that was too much for me at the time, and you were so understanding about that. It wasn't like, well, this is what you need to do, even though we both knew that's what I needed to do. But because you gave me the patience and the understanding with that, sometimes people just need a little support. They need a little someone on the side to be like, it's okay. And you're doing a good job, and yeah, you were the entire container was just incredible. But the way you custom tailored individual healing experiences, but also a group healing experience that was incredible out of everything at the same time was really, yeah, was really awesome. But I think second month, I would say second, third month, I was like, whoa, new me who this.
I love that. I love that. And that's actually like, that's such a short period of time when you really think about it, right? Like, how many people do we know, like, spend years doing therapy and still working through the same wounds, the same patterns, and not to knock, like, I have to say this all the time, but like, therapy is the only thing I can like compare it to because it's the mainstream modality, right? Go talk it out, go do the thing, but it ends up being that like you leave raw and you're still like not dealing with the energetics of it. You're still not dealing with like the what's at the root of this. And sometimes it's more than just what's happened to you in this lifetime. Like sometimes it's from a past life, many past lives, It's like so layered. Sometimes it's galactic, sometimes it's ancestral. And these are the things that are so important to look at because again, we're human, but we're also divine beings, right? We have energy bodies and it's important for us to consider that we are multi-dimensional beings. And so we need to look at our healing from that lens.
Mm.
And when you say like, I don't know how you customize, like I don't know either. I don't know either, but I'm doing God's work. Like all I know is that I'm, the tools that I share with you all are the tools that I use for myself so that I'm operating from a higher source. right? Like I don't need to pull from my own energy to fuel others. Like I'm already being filled up with God's grace and the earth. And we can go into this is probably making no sense for for anybody who's listening, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, it is a very unique experience to look at from all these different angles. And I was saying that because you mentioned like the you were like, oh, by month 2 or 3, right? And I'm like, yeah, that's actually like nothing. Nothing. Like years of the same to then be like in 2 months I was already becoming. That's huge. And I remember I remember, your beginning and just being like, I don't know, I don't know want this, but I don't know. And you were already in it, and I would just be in my head like, just give it time, boo. Like, just give it time, you know? And the moment, and like you said, I don't believe in forcing anything. That's why I will never press you about this is your homework and you must do this and this and that. Otherwise, you're effing up. Like, you're not, right? Everything is at your own pace and things are going to click in at their own time. But the moment you had that space, and you came back, and I remember you were like, I'm in. I'm fully in. I'm committing. And that's when things changed for you.
I just got the chill. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. And that is so powerful because that also speaks to the fact that like we can say like, oh, I'm gonna do this now. And we'll say it and we think saying it is enough. And then maybe we'll kind of doing it. But then kind of doing it is not it either, right? It's not until you fully commit and you're like, I'm gonna give this my 110% to really honor the process and see like and not make excuses, right? And it's then when the doors just open, right? The pathway clears and you start seeing the signs and you start seeing the confirmation. The angel numbers are everywhere and you're just like, I'm on the timeline, I'm on the path, I'm aligned. And that's a really magical experience when that clicks in and you're like, I'm seeing it. The universe is communicating with me differently because I've chosen it. Right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah,
Well, let's
truly.
talk about the magic. I mean, we talk about the healing and some of the challenges, but like what would you consider the magic, the heaven that arrived in your life? What were these things for you?
Oh my gosh, so much. So much. So just as you were saying this, I remember like the moment that I was like, I'm in. And when I moved out here, I got a seasonal place because I live in like a beach town. So there's not a lot of rentals out here. It's a high demand seasonal area. So I couldn't find a rental. I got a seasonal place that was short term to look for a long term place. So I was on the verge of moving out of there. And that's when I had a lot of pressure. I was like, gotta find a place, I'm in between and I have a deadline and I'm in the program. And I was like, all right, you know what? This is where I lock in. And I locked in. And I remember that at that moment, I'm not gonna say like on that specific day, but right around like that week and that time frame, I was looking for places and feeling some anxiety and stuff, like trying to figure out where I was going to land. And I had found the place that I'm in now, but I didn't know I was moving in. And like other places that I was banking on had rejected me, but I thought I was going to get those. So it's like rejection, 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 boom. And then I had like a week to like find a place or something. And I found this place. And it was right around the time where I was like, all right, I'm locked in, like I'm doing this. Because aside from the intensity and like the anxiety that I was feeling because of my personal life, I was seeing transition and I was like the universe started speaking to me in ways. Like I had a fox outside my house one day when I was like meditating and asking for something, literally like walked up to my porch. And I was like, okay, so it was like stuff like that was happening that people could say like is a coincidence, coincidental nature, whatever. But this moment, I just got the call back that they wanted to see me for an interview for this apartment. I had just recently told you, yes, I'm locked in. Tell me how a bird flies in my house and literally sits down on my couch, like just sitting there, like with me, right after I lit a candle, like, and I'm like, okay, I need this place. I need this place. Boom, the bird just comes in, and then I think it was like a Europe. I don't know, whatever I looked up, whatever kind of bird it was basically like good things are coming to you. And you're on the right path. But in that moment, and moments like that, because that wasn't the only thing that happened to me, is when like you can no longer explain things to people. And it's not even that it sounds crazy, it's just that it's such a feeling, and that this is such an internal, like, intuitive conversation that you're having. It's like when you get a gut feeling about something and then it happens. But it's that same kind of feeling, but in a conversation with the universe. You're like, I know this is for me. Even like my connection with animals too, because I started sitting outside. I had a backyard at the time, and I would sit out and feed the birds. And the birds were coming closer and closer to me. And I noticed even a raccoon tried to come in my house. I didn't look at that as a bad thing. I mean, I was scared, don't get me wrong. I would have, I don't know. But it was just like I was noticing like animals are coming closer to me. Like my connection with the universe is becoming stronger. Like that, like you start to see things differently. And also too, like I was spending a lot of time outside and like with the trees and stuff, and just like having therapy with nature. And I grew like this beautiful connection with nature and with the trees, and I love them so much. And I later in Heaven on Earth, I had this experience where I went hiking, and all of a sudden I looked up, because I had been like working with trees and stuff and just embracing outdoors more. And I looked up on the middle of a hike, and I saw all these beautiful trees and all the forest. And I was like, oh my gosh, they've been watching us like this whole time. Like I could feel them feeling me, and so many beautiful things that maybe the outside world could call like woo woo and stuff. But when you're going through that and you feel this like unwavering connection, with Mother Earth, with the winds, with the elements, it makes me emotional, because I need that. I think we all need that. And I haven't felt in so long, so deeply. And I realized that part of my loop was I am such a deep feeler. I'm so emotional that I didn't know what to do with my emotions, because I've always been told, you're too much, you're too sensitive, you're too fiery, I'm too much of anything, which made me feel not enough. Because then it's like, well, how can I be the right amount? And to be able to experience that with nature, with animals, and with children, I think, and with humans, of course. But I mean, like, those were eye openers for me. That was like a great honor. It's almost like an initiation. Like, you're allowing me to feel this? Like, just from looking at you, like, thank you, because we don't have to give everyone our beauty. You know what I mean? Like, we see as humans, we could see that people like, oh, wow, she's beautiful or he's beautiful, right? And that person can walk by and be like, whatever, and block your energy, right? So everything can do that to us, right? Like, yeah, you don't appreciate it enough, you don't deserve this. So like I just felt this unwavering connection that I also felt like a deep reverence for, that I didn't have so much gratitude for so long, and that's the feeling that I needed to feel, and that was the most magic I've ever felt, to be able to feel. Like, people say, like, I had a past with addiction, and like, some might ask, like, oh, what's the craziest thing you've ever done? What's the hardest thing you've ever done? Reality, sobriety. I never felt deeper than that. There's no better high, than looking at a tree and having the feeling of wonderment, of excitement, just from the way that it's blowing. But then on top of it, there's all these cool, crazy things that happen where like a bird flies in your house and sits with you, or like, the animal comes up to you. people were finishing my sentences online in the supermarket. I remember at one time I was explaining to you, like, I'm excited to just go out because the coolest things have been happening to me, like, while waiting online. Like I either meet someone, we have like something in common, like cool things were happening where it was like, one day I was online and this guy's like, oh, what's your daughter's name? I'm like, Layla. And he's like, my daughter's name is Layla. And he was like the nicest gentleman, and he was like, oh, and look, and we just had such a great conversation. So it's just like all little cute stuff like that was happening. And another big thing that I want to share that was definitely aligned with me, like being in alignment, was one day I was online and I was buying something. My online stories, I should write online chronicles. um, and I was buying something and I made a joke, not a joke, but like, I made it in a joking manner to the customer service, the person who was working there. And I was like, oh yeah, it was meant to be. I manifested this, because it was the last one on the shelf. Like stuff like that. I was like, oh, I want this item, but I don't want to pay this price for it. And then boom, I walked in the store. I kid you not, it was a garbage can. And I didn't want like a real fancy garbage can. I was like, I don't want to pay more than $50 for whatever. Walked in, last one on the shelf, on sale for the price that I wanted it for. Like it just appeared there for me. So I was so excited about that. So I'm walking out to the register all happy. I'm like, yeah, I manifested this, I made it appear for me. And the lady behind me starts laughing. And she's like, oh, you're a manifester, huh? And I was like, yeah. She's like, you believe in the law of attraction? And it was just like, like you're walking in your purpose, even if you don't know what your purpose is, because everything you're doing is purposeful and every conversation is amazing. And like through that, then she recommended me to something that that was an event that I had an amazing experience for, just from that. And we were on the same page. She was like, oh, do you follow this person? Yep, I follow them. Yep. And it's just like, the conversation's already there. You're just now, it's like the words are just like happening and the flow is happening. So yeah, just cool stuff left and right. And don't get me wrong, like still life is happening at the same time, but that's another magical part of the experience, because I realized like, oh, I have a choice now. I can focus on what's challenging, or I can keep on noticing all these cool things, because like challenges aren't going to go away, right? But if I can focus on the cool things, I can keep a balance in my life, and I can feel safe and I can work through things and I can think with clarity, and I don't have to feel like my world is crumbling because something goes wrong. Yeah, and the universe plays with you, and it's fun. It's really fun. And she loves playing with me, let me tell you. Let me tell you, and I realize like my magnetism too, because I still have my moments where like, I'll be not in, maybe not feeling so energized, or, I'll have a day where I'm down, and legit, like whatever I'm focusing on, boom, it happens, and it's like, but you know what? Now I take those experiences, like the other day, I'm in my car and sometimes my check engine light toggles. I should definitely take it to the mechanic. I mean, I drive safely, everything's fine. I'm pretty sure I know what it is because he told me about it last time I brought it there. But it's like a little tube that I need. But it toggles on and off. And I was just thinking, it hasn't been on in a while, because I'm like, I'm going to take it in, but I'll take it in after the holidays for the new year. And I was thinking about it. It hasn't been on in a couple days. Like it has, well, like a few weeks, and I haven't seen it. Oh, good. The car is good. Like maybe it was just a mistake that it came. And right after I thought that, I'm like, but the funny thing is now, boom, this is the magic in that, because you start to realize how powerful you are, So I'm like, this is not a bad thing. Like, it's just my power, Okay. Although granted, it's the car, don't get me wrong, but you can see the sense in it. You know what I mean? Like, oh, okay, I was focusing on that. Now I'm getting a reminder of that, So, and then it's like, all right, let's change our focus. Let's focus on something better. Although I am a safe driver and my kids are always safe, and the car, the car will be taken in. But just like small examples of like when you're focusing on good and when you're, when you're frustrated or when you're feeling challenged and how those things can both pan out, so then you realize you have that choice,
Yeah.
you know? So, and that's what I mean about like having fun with it because then it becomes fun because you're like, oh, okay, I see you. I see you, universe. I see you and I raised you. I raised you some money in my bank account right now. How about that?
I love that. Yeah, choice.
Right.
We all have it. We just forget. Yeah. I love all your sharing about your connection with nature and the trees and the feelings of wonderment and just honor. And when you said it's an initiation, like it's like it's like a welcome back home, right? You remember who you are now and we see you and like you like the fact that you see and feel them is like oh like I am clear. I'm here, right? I'm online. The fact that I can feel you, see you, hear you, right? Can have a whole like telepathic communication with the forest. Like this is not fantasy. This is our birthright. This is what we're all born with and that we're all capable of experiencing and it is a matter of a variety of things, right? It's like the decision, the choice to say I'm gonna live my best life and I'm gonna figure out what that looks like and I'm gonna do the work, whatever it is. And the remembering, right? Like once you start seeing the bits and the shifts as you're building momentum, it's like you use that same momentum to be like, okay, it's working. Let me keep going. Let me see what else. And then that becomes fun. Like, what else? What else? What else? Which is the beautiful part about healing. And it's something that I talk about often is it doesn't have to be so hard. It doesn't have to be so intense. Like, it could be gentle. Healing can actually be gentle. And that doesn't mean that it's like devoid of feeling, right? We're still gonna cry. We're still gonna feel our things. That's part of being human. And like you said, like the challenges are not going anywhere. Like the plot twists can still very much happen. It's just the meaning we give it and how we maneuver, right? Like when we are, like you said, had you been in this old state of being of like fight, flight, freeze, right? Like everything is crashing down, like a raccoon coming into your house could have taken you there, could have taken you into a spiral of like, oh, why me? Or why this now? Right? Like a state of victimhood. And instead it's like, oh my gosh, something about me is allowed, right? It's like, and
Yeah.
it's delusional, right? But at this point, I would rather be delusional and let this be my experience and my belief than believe that something's out to get me.
Right. Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so I love that. I love that. And the reason why we become so clear is because we are doing so much energy work. Like we are facing the things, clearing the things, integrating the things, and then taking action on the things that like come in, right? It's not the magic is happening, but it gets almost expedited and it becomes almost more potent the more we engage, the more we do our part, right? Was this your experience?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I feel, and it, what's so beautiful too about heaven on earth is like it doesn't throw it all on you, where like, because for me, again, I want to say this on an individual basis, but I think a lot of people can relate. When you begin to heal, you want to heal like as soon as possible, but even though you know that it's took this long to get here, but like, you want to get rid of those feelings so bad or have an understanding for them, I guess, more so have an understanding. But heaven on earth really is just the way you mapped it out is so beautiful because it gives you a chance to embrace all the steps. Even though it's a short program, you do so much deep, intensive work in that time, but you also know like how to give the grace to work through it. Like I remember there was some points where like I felt like I was falling behind, and you're like, it's okay. Like even, but I'm like, but the group is there and I have to be there. And you're like, listen, just here. And you would give me your advice on how to catch up, and just the support and the stability to know that if I don't, it's okay. Like there's no catching up. You know what I mean? Like I'm in the right place. So it just gave me the chance to go through spiritual hygiene, like letting go of specific things at specific moments, or maybe it was just working through my daily, what was going on, because I didn't have space to even do the whatever it was. It gave me the space to do that where I didn't feel like it needed to be so much, because that's the challenge. Sometimes you get overwhelmed and then you feel like discouraged. It could get it, and it's like going to the gym. Like you want results and you're going to the gym and you're working so hard, and then you don't, even though internally those results are happening, or you don't know, but internally they're happening, but we don't see them on the external. So we're like, you know what, I'm tired, this isn't, I'm going to take a break, or I'm going to eat bad. And then you're in that loop. And then you feel guilty. And then you're like, okay, I'll go back to the gym. And it's a loop. Heaven on earth gave me a chance to recognize that and break out of that loop, because wherever I was, it's all right. Okay, today you want to eat bad? Now what can we do about that today? You know? It doesn't have to be like for the results for the long term. What can we do right now that's in this moment that you're ready to do and I'm capable of, that my body, my nervous system, and my awareness is ready for it, instead of just being in the moment of, okay, I'm going to do this and be on autopilot. I'm going to go to the gym and do it because I want these results. I'm going to do the spiritual hygiene because I know what I'm supposed to do. It's like, all right, I don't feel like doing this today. Then I'm not going to do this. I'm going to journal instead, because it's going to be more attentive and I'm going to be more intentional with it. And I learned how to fill my cup up.
Yes. Beautiful. So with that, like where are you now in your day to day? Like what's easy for you now that was difficult before?
I think really I feel much more balanced. I feel much more balanced where, like, I'll tell you this. I think part of me joining the program was like the transition that I was going through with, like, the grief and and everything I was dealing with. But also I was like, where do I go now? Like, what's my purpose? Because before all of this, I was into music, and I still am. I love, I'm a creative, like, but that's for another time. But, I was in this place of, who am I? Right. And I think heaven on earth, well, I know it made me realize something that was just took so much weight off of me, that I don't have to necessarily have a purpose. Like, my purpose is existence. And knowing that brings so much ease to my life, because I still have goals. I still have, like, passion and things I want to do and I want to accomplish. But sometimes that stuff can weigh you and make you feel like you're not in alignment, right? So when I was able to embrace the fact that, like, oh my gosh, I'm waking up, I'm breathing, and be grateful for having a roof over my head, for having heat, for my kids, even like when they talk back to me or when they make jokes with me, the things that would make me frustrated before, I can now find gratitude in. I still get, I still feel challenges, I still all of that, but it's like I can really, like, especially, and this is the most important part, when I do get frustrated, I can stop and say I'm not going there. And then I can really be like, wow, I'm so grateful. The other day, something happened with one of my kids, nothing major, but he made a mess. And I was like, oh, we go through this all the time. Why can't you just not make the mess? And the point of the story is, I found myself all of a sudden, I was like, I'm so grateful that, like, I have a son that can make a mess. I can clean it up after him. I have the wherewithal not to be upset about it. Yeah, this is happening. It's something, that we need to work on, but I could just see things like more healthy, Just more, I feel more grounded and things make sense now. Instead of asking why, why are you doing this? Didn't I just tell you? Um, I could, oh, I know why. Or maybe I don't know why. That's okay though. You know what's awesome? We have paper towels, we can clean it up. You know what's awesome? We can go to the laundromat. Like, thank God for that. You know what I mean? Because there was points where I didn't, and I can really truly look at things and be like, thank you, God. Because you know what? When you give me these challenges, it's because you know that I'm strong. It's because you want me to be stronger. It's because you want to show me who I am, and to have that is purpose, you know? Like, even if my purpose is cleaning up a spill today, like, I'm here for it, And I think that that is one of the most profound things that I got out of Heaven on Earth was like, I don't need to have this extravagant story, or that was part of my mask, who I am to the world and to my parents, and or in competition, or to prove, or even just to prove to myself, it's like I can let go of all that. Not always. I'm still working on it, but I think for the most part, I would say 99.9%, I can. I can let go of that, and that doesn't matter. And when I can take all of that away, I'm like, yes, I get to water my plants today. Oh my God, I said hi to my plants and my plants waved back to me. Like, who would it, you know what I mean? Like that. Did that happen to you? I'll call my sister. Has your plant ever waved to you before? Really? Well, come over. I'm going to show you, Like, this is what we're doing today. And I'm so serious. Like, it sounds funny, but, and that can it help. Oh my gosh, it makes life, I don't have to be anything. I could just be. And Heaven on Earth like truly helped me to understand that.
That's huge. That's huge. That's like a huge weight just off your entire being. And you know how we've talked about like frustration and anger feels like it's like when you're already operating on like, I don't have enough, I don't have anything, or I'm full of other people's stuff. And so now any little thing is gonna like throw me off my center, right? But like the fact that you're saying 99.9%, girl. Girl, it brings me back to it's full circle when we were talking about like choosing to better ourselves for the betterment of our future, right? Our children, our next generations, like the fact that like you can choose healthy ways of responding versus like straight up like reacting from again, like survival, like dysregulated nervous system. We're not even going to say people are bad. It's just people's nervous systems are usually just, right, ready to pop. And so when we create that safety in our bodies and we clear the funk and now this just like love and you can like you said, like I don't even have to ask why. The answers just come. Like there's a level of clarity now, right? It's beautiful. And so your children get to experience you, like the true you, authentic you, and like see you self-correct and like not have to be perfect, right? Like you're not being an example of something that they could never be. And
Right.
that's incredible. Like that's the greatest gift and purpose in life is just to be to be an example of what it looks like to just be who you are and have
Yeah.
no shame around it and have the clarity and the mirrors, right? To like see ourselves in a way that's like, oh, I can do that better, and not be down in a rut over it and just choose different the next time around. And like that's really life. Life isn't perfect. It's just how do we maneuver, How do we see it? How do we engage with it? Yeah, thank you. It's such a
Thank you.
beautiful, beautiful examples that you're sharing. And I wanna start to wrap up a little bit. And I feel like since we've already talked about like the magic and your life now and like the beauty of just talking to your plant, like I think it's also just like the simple magic of just like I talked to my plant today and it moved and that means it responded to me versus like going around like you said on autopilot doing things just out of like you're not even there. You're just doing things because it's on your list and you're supposed to do things. But doing things because you enjoy it and then like sharing that with your sister, that is healing. That's healing your relationship with your sister. You're inviting her into your world of magic. You're not forcing her into magic. You're not telling her she needs to do anything or she needs to talk to her plants. You're just like, come to my world. Watch me talk to my plants. And like let that magic overflow, carry
Yeah.
it into her day, and I think that's awesome. So yeah, what I want to ask is, and this is something I'm asking everyone. So now that you've gone through the heaven on earth container, what's your definition now? Like what does heaven on earth mean to you now?
For me, heaven on earth is balance, because when you don't know and you want something, like what you like, sometimes we're in a place of healing, we don't even know what we want, or we don't even know where it came from, right? And then the journey becomes like an exploration, and we might expect something or want something, desire things like, okay, I have a goal and I want to heal and I want to feel better from this. And then I realized that those expectations too can be like either distracting, masking, or overwhelming, right? So instead of doing things or desiring, the feeling to feel good or to feel better, I've learned to let go of that desire and embrace the moment. And that for me is heaven on earth, because we're in this reality, right? So we talked about how the challenges are still here, but it's how we perceive them and how we don't react or react to them, right? And that is what makes our circumstances, right? That's what creates our reality. So my reaction to my trauma and the way I lived and the things, the way people treated me or the way I treated myself created all these loops, right? So just because I learned that, okay, if I don't react like this, does not necessarily mean that these things are not going to happen anymore, right? But now it's like if something happens, I have the chance to change that or to alchemize it or to manipulate it into something better, even if it's challenging and it might not feel good. And that's the part that brings the joy, because there's happiness and there's joy, right? You could be happy, but happy is like for a moment, right? But joy is a state of mind. And I feel like the only way you can truly be joyful is when you accept everything that's going on around you, right? It's being able to be who you are in a state of peace with all circumstances happening, no matter what happens. And that's the joy. And heaven on earth is has taught me that. I'm not there. Sometimes I'm there, but I know that feeling now. I understand that reality. And knowing that brings up an entirely different world, and a beautiful place to be in, even with, challenges and no matter what happens. So maybe it's not all clouds and rainbows and always, but you know what it is? It's strength, it's resilience, it's knowing who I am as a human, as a mother, as a woman on this planet, what I'm capable of, who I'm like, how I can help in the world, and being able to empower my vigor and how I can feel and be me, through everything. And heaven on earth really brought that into my life, and not just my life, my kids' life too. I wanted to make it a point for the people out there to understand that, okay, even if this is me and my perception, my feeling, and my circumstances, I can see the results through the humans that I'm raising. My kids have more confidence. They're more free. They started dancing more. They're laughing more. They're not afraid to talk back to me, which is not a bad thing, because they they are safe in who they are. I can see that. I can see that reflection, you know? So that's how I know. You know what I'm saying? That right there, when you can see how you affect, because they're the most honest and pure thing that come into this world, not because they're mine, all of them, you know, the youth. And when these kids, you know, because it's not just my kids, when I go to the playground, little kids walk up to me, they want to play with me. And I'm like, why out of all the adults here? I want a break right now. You know, and they're like, come on, just play, come on. And I'm like, but that's a blessing, you know, because for whatever reason, I'm playful and I'm, you know, and that's a beautiful thing. And kids will be honest. They'll be like, no, I don't, you know, I've gotten it before on my bad days, you know. No, you know, so I understand. And when you see that, like that for me, the animals and the kids, you know, so I can look at me and say like, oh yeah, I'm healing and I'm doing the work, right? But when you start seeing the reflection through other things, then you know it's magic. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. That's so true.
Yeah.
That's so true. That's a direct response because of the proximity. And you're right. The children, the youth, they sense the purity. They feel your playfulness. You feel safe. And that gives you the wow. Wow. Thank you, right? It's an honor. It might be annoying if you're not in the mood, right? But it's an honor.
Adorable, you know? And it's just like, yeah, I learned so much, you know, from the youth. And yeah, and they're the truth, you
Mhm.
know? They're the truth. So, and heaven on earth is the truth, you know? And I thank God and spirit that they gave me the experience to have that understanding in my journey at this time.
Beautiful. Thank you. So, last question. I mean, you know, from just being in the container, the various personalities in the group, right? We all come from different spaces and places. But who would you say Heaven on Earth is for?
Everybody.
Why?
No, for real though, but yeah, anyone because even someone who is in resistance, right? It has a special way of unlayering, right? But then even for the person who's looking for like mentorship or, you know, some support, absolutely. Because if you're already doing the work, like the way things can unfold for you, you know, I don't want to put expectations out there, but at the same time, yes, what I truly believe and what I felt in this program and in this container, it's very powerful. And the other thing, like I said, is it's not only going to affect you, but it's going to affect the people around you too. So if you're someone who really cares, you know, not only about yourself, you'll really see your my whole environment changed. I would recommend it to anyone, you know, very much because those who are on the healing path, we're gonna find our way, right? But especially I think, you know, coming from someone who like is hard-headed, you know, and like really needed to like really ask for help and it took a lot, this was the best thing for me. And I think that somebody who might be feeling like that, like, oh, I want to do it, but check it out, you know, check it out. And if you don't believe me, hit me up. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, we'll just have your email, your phone number. Oh, thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you
You're
for saying
welcome.
that. It's
Yeah.
different coming from someone who's experienced it, you know? Because I have people ask, you know, like, well, I'm not spiritual, you know, because we learn energy work tools. And I often say, well, you are spiritual by nature. You don't have to believe in it. Like it's just gonna click. And whether you use it or not, you're literally getting purified. There's a purification and a reset process that's happening naturally that even if you don't take these tools and continue using them, you're gonna be a different person. And I can guarantee that because the work works.
Yes. Yes.
The work works.
Because for sure. Like my whole environment changed, Ev. I mean, you saw it.
Yeah.
Everything, not just me as a person. Like the way I organize, like even like when I'm like the way I focus is different. You know, it's carried over into my entire process. I'm reading more now. I struggle with like focusing. I don't want to put a label on it, but like it's hard for me to like sit down and read a book and stuff like that. That area of my life it has improved. The way I cook, like doing things with intention, like every single thing has made an improvement in my life. I'm not lying.
Believe it.
Everything. My plants are greener. My kids are happier. My food tastes better. Like, I'm telling you, it's the real deal. It's the real deal. Seriously. But yeah.
I'm so happy to hear that. Truly, truly. Yeah, and I mean it's that way because everything is connected. You might go in thinking, "Oh, I need to work on my heart." But the heart is connected to everything else, and everything else is connected to everything else. And so before you know it, clearing the heart cleared your mind, and then clearing your mind cleared your root. And it's everything. So,
So
yes, I believe it.
true. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much, love. Thank you so, so much for sharing. Do you have any like final things you want to share? Anything before we close out?
I just want to say thank you. You're such a special, incredible individual, and like woman to woman, and even for the males out there, like anybody, everyone, who may not be, just like you said, may not be spiritual, like the way that you just have an understanding, like I've learned so much from you and you're so powerful. Your presence is just a blessing, And I mean, like, you have the type of magic where you don't have to even say anything. And for that, I thank you so much. I honor you. Working with you has been the greatest experience of my life. And I implore anyone out there to work with you, honestly, like that. And I'm not just saying that because we're here. I speak my mind truly and honestly. Like if anyone is thinking about working with you or working with anyone on a level, like you are a magnet of just like love and understanding, and it's beautiful. So thank you.
Thank you. If I had the tears, I'd be bawling. I've been crying. I've been crying already.
Yeah,
I love you so much.
love
Thank
you.
you so much for sharing your story, for being so open, so willing to share. My intention for this is like I genuinely just I hope this reaches the right people, people who need to hear your story, who can take anything from it, be inspired, be motivated in any way, and maybe like you could do it and you got this and we got this and go outside and talk to the plants maybe, right?
Yeah, feed a bird.
Yeah, feed a bird. Thank you so much for your presence, your magic, and again, just for being willing to share in this way. So, yeah, the last thing I will say is if any of this inspired you, share it,
Of
right? Share
course.
it with the friends. Like, I really don't care about subscriptions or comments or whatever. Like, just share it with someone who you know will like receive something from this. So, yeah, with that, I love you.
Thank you so much. Mwah.
Mwah. See you later.
Okay, bye.